All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. Today, we are so excited. We have Amy Duong Kim with Compass in Chicago. Amy, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, we are so excited to have you here, and we're going to learn so much from you today. We're going to start with, though, tell us, how long have you been in the business, and how did you get into the business? What did you lose your mind? What happened?
Yes, that happened. But I started 14 years ago. My dad was a realtor. My brother was a realtor, and I vowed I would never be a realtor. But I was an actuary. I studied actuarial science at U of I. I was an actuary for 3 years. I loved the analytical part of being an actuary. I hated the fact that I was always by myself in my cubicle. And it just was very, honestly, really depressing. And it's a great career, so I'm not knocking it, okay? Just not right for me.
Yeah.
I was interviewing. I ended up getting a job at Deloitte & Touche for data mining. I felt like it would be kind of the same routes that I was already doing. My brother, on a whim, said, why don't you just get your license so you can have it part-time and you can help your friends every once in a while. So I quit my job. I studied for the test for a week. I got my license. I was about to take that position. I walked into my brother's brokerage. He owned his own brokerage at the time. So I walked into my brother's brokerage. Somebody walked in saying that they needed to sell their house. So I said, I guess I'll do it. And so I sold it. So I sold in the first week, and I said, well, that was not hard at all. Well, realized this is a very hard career, but that was kind of the jump start, and I never looked for another job.
Wow, that's awesome. So 14 years in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And first sale, and I've heard a lot of people when they get into it, when their first sale is too easy, those are the agents that never make it because they realize too late how hard it is and quit. But it sounds like you made it anyway. What would you say gives you, in such a competitive industry, and you're in Chicago, a competitive market? And by the way, everyone, and I've kind of given you this rundown in the intro, but you've been named a who's who in Chicago. You've been published in several, I think, TV shows, magazines. But what would you say gives you your competitive edge to get that exposure and to be such a successful agent? You're doing about 40, I think it's 45 million a year.
Last year in 2017, we're on the track. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more this year, but at least that. So.
Yeah, that's incredible. So tell us a little bit about what is it that gives you, what's your edge, what's the difference in you and other agents?
I think in the beginning, I really just didn't want to disappoint anybody. So it went back to really good customer service. And I still follow this, is that I try to treat every deal like it's my own. So I think if you follow that motto, I don't see how you could fail. So it was really important for me to never have anyone feel like they weren't important. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. And then when it got to a point that I physically, you only have so much time in the day, that we decided, we need a team. We need really amazing team members to help and provide a full service full service team.
Yeah, you said you treat every deal like it's your own. I mean, that covers so many things if you can think of it that way. And then you talked about building a team. Well, to keep treating every deal like it's your own and give it the time and care that it needs, you need to build a team to be able to support that. When you built your team, how did that evolve and unfold? I think it's a little bit different for everybody.
Yes, it just happens organically. My brother owned his own brokerage, so we worked together. So for 7 years, I owned it with him. So it just was just the two of us, and I actually hire people that are actually the opposite of me. So now I do personality tests, and it has to be someone that's not like me because, I think we can all kind of grow together and we all can learn from each other. So I have this very analytical perspective that I bring to the table. And so I actually need creativity. I'm horrible at design, things like that. So, which is very weird in residential real estate.
Right. Yeah,
so I need people to support me that are not like me. So, and then, my husband and I, we work together. it wasn't meant that way. When we had gotten married, he had just gotten laid off. I was working like a crazy person, and he asked, well, maybe I can help you since I'm,
Yeah.
I'm looking for a job anyway, so I can, we can work together for a little bit. And then he just never looked for another job either. So
It just took off.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, it's always, I guess, me, but none of this would have happened without him.
I love what you said, hire people the opposite of you.
Yes.
It's such a good idea because a lot of people, I do think it's, and I've heard people say don't hire people because you like them or don't like them. I think it's important to like them, but they can't be like you. And I think that's all personality driven. Do you work well? Do you need to like people you do or don't work with? I don't know. I kind of do. But tell me about, hire people the opposite of you, but tell me about your team structure. So you've got how many people on the team?
So we have my husband and I, we're just kind of like, I guess, the team leads, and I'm the front or the customer face, right? And then he takes care of everything on the back end. So I have these opportunities to really be able to be engaged with the clients. And then we have in Chicago, we have 3 team members that I will co-list, they'll help my buyers. We have a ton of rentals because a lot of my clients have investment properties. So somebody has to help them find the tenants for them as well. So we do that too. And typically agents don't do that, but this is a service we want to provide. Mm-hmm. So, and then we have somebody out in the suburbs as well, just to be our additional, hands and feet on the ground. So awesome. Actually in Chicago.
So go ahead.
Yeah, we do it geographically too. So like my brother does Northwest side, and Kat and Ayumi do more like center Chicago. And we have somebody in the southwest suburbs too. So we try to do geography to make it work for everybody.
That's smart. I love it. So it sounds like you started in Chicago, in the city of Chicago, doing a lot of condos. You still got that going with 3 agents in Chicago. At some point in time, as we talked earlier, you moved out to the suburbs, and then you started selling in that market, and you've got an agent in that market who helps keep up with clients. And the agents, it sounds like you're the rainmaker, and the agents are helping with service delivery, getting clients and properties. How much negotiating? Do you do all the negotiating? Do they do the negotiating? How does that work?
I ask my clients, that we're we're collaborating together with a co-lister, or if you're a buyer, that we're collaborating. So whatever they feel comfortable with. Honestly, they tend to decide to work with the agent on the team outside of me.
Wow.
And a lot of my other agents too. I love mentoring. I loved owning my own brokerage before. Yeah. I want all my team members to be, $45 million producers. So that's the goal. I'm really hoping that they're getting something out of my training to really build their own business too.
Exactly. That's awesome. And then, so you've got how many people on the team?
6.
6. Awesome. So how do you, I'm going to ask you some more questions about you, but I love the team, and I'll tell everybody why. Everybody's always asking me, like, Jere, you do all these podcast interviews, and you've got a team. I want to know from you, how do I build it? How do I make it strong? I get more questions about that than anything. And you mentioned earlier, before we started recording, that you've got such a strong team in Chicago, it enables you to grow and expand to other markets. Yeah. How were you able to was there any secret sauce to creating such a strong team that you're able to, they practically run themselves?
I try not to treat anyone like an assistant because they're not. So we're all team members. And the goal is the same, is that we just continue to provide the best service to our clients as possible. So I actually want to hear their input on things a lot as well. So, if we do have a listing that's not selling, I want to hear what they think we should be doing or what we're not doing. And so it's collaboration. I'm not anyone's boss. I
like it.
I think it's important for everyone to have a voice, and then the goal is that we're doing this together. I want a $100 million team, So
Exactly. Collaboration's a great, that word alone, it's just,
yeah.
I think it sums it up.
And to do that, everybody needs to be a top producer. It can't just be one person. So, so yeah, I think the collaboration that no one feels like an employee. I don't.
They
I would have
own
anyone.
it. Yeah, own what they do because it's kind of the I've been bringing up Ritz Carlton a lot lately, but I noticed at Ritz Carlton everybody owns their role and has the freedom and liberty to go the extra mile, and they own their job in a way that they want to, and that's what I hear you saying. What is your what is your just as a real estate agent, kind of what is your greatest success or what are you most proud of in your business? Whether it's an accomplishment or who you are or where you've come or any of the above.
I think it's honestly the work-life balance that so I have two kids, and if you follow me, well, don't, if you want to see my kids, it's on Facebook and on my personal Instagram.
Right.
But, and I'm very clear, you're only going to find mom stuff on my personal Instagram. If you go to my business.
Good for you, which we could talk about that too, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so so when I'm with my kids, when my daughter was born, let me say, I felt like I was very torn. I was building this, my husband and I were building this business, and I felt when I was with her, I wasn't really with her. And when I was working, I wasn't really, I felt very distracted. So I had to make a decision. Am I going to go crazy and just feel like I'm always missing out? Or am I really going to learn how to time block? And lots of people time block to prospect, right? So
Right.
my goal was to time block, and I know that sounds crazy, but to time block my family time. So,
Yeah.
when I'm with even if it's 15 minutes, I don't check my phone. I have it charging or whatever, and I'm just with my kids. I put a timer on when I have to go to my appointment, and I don't look at my phone at all when I'm with them. So
Love that. Time block family time. I mean, so go ahead. Go ahead.
So that was, because I was like, I think any person who has children and you don't want to miss out on anything, the job is 24/7.
Really
I had a
is.
client who was calling me at 10 p.m. last night, and my Asian clients are calling me or talking to me at 2 in the morning too. So, you have to learn to, in my mind, I think the best way to make my mind sane is learning how to turn it on and off.
And how did you do that?
I think it goes, at the time, everybody sleeps with their phone, like right next to them, right? So for me to learn actually was when my second child was born, I had my phone downstairs. So from like 8 p.m. to whenever I woke up, or 9 p.m. whenever I woke up, I just wouldn't look at my phone. And it actually kind of taught me to,
You're able to turn it off because you'll say, I'm just going to look. But when you do, it starts this whole domino effect.
Totally.
Wow, that's a great idea. You're giving me ideas for myself right now. And I'll say there's so have you, I don't know if you've heard, anybody in Atlanta has heard of Andy Stanley, and probably around the country, but he is actually a minister, but he's wildly successful. Like, it's kind of scary how well his business is run. And he talks about how when you talk, it makes me think of this. He said, a lot of people talk about I go to work and I pray that my kids are going to be okay. I would go to work, but I would cut it off the same way you do. And I would pray that the church or his business would be okay versus he's like, I prioritized. I mean, there's a lot, that statement I just made, there's a lot of heated discussion out there up for that and how you really manage it and a lot of different perspectives, and including from me because it's tough. But I always think about what he said, and he said when he pursued it that way and kept his priorities where they should be, it was amazing what it did for his business. I mean, his business is truly incredible. And he wouldn't call it a business. He would call it his church or his mission or whatever. But Andy Stanley, just Google him, guys, if you want to look him up. If you want to see how to run a business, this guy runs one like you've never seen. Or he wouldn't take credit. He would say he puts smarter people around him. But anyway, back to, but it comes back to balancing your life, which we don't talk a lot about on the show because nobody seems to have a good answer. But that was a good one.
Well, 2 years ago,
yeah.
My family, we took a 7-week vacation. This coming year, we'll be doing a 3-week vacation. And I think those are really important times to have.
And how do you do that? Because it's you and your husband running the show. So who stayed, like, yeah, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, we have our team members that I co-list with them. They have to take equal responsibility with the work that we have. So, you know, I think I think sometimes top producers, the people who have the really great teams, you know, they are the ones that every team member plays a really important role. And I think if people are growing their team and it took me a long time to realize that too.
Mm-hmm.
So to build, and I'm still learning, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is not perfect. We're like,
here's what, so it sounds like if every listing you have, you co-list it with a team member?
Not every listing.
Okay.
There's certain clients that just want me, and I'm actually trying to change the conversation that it's not just me, it's a team, and to make sure that you're going to get the utmost service. It's actually better for you to have one of my team members be part of this listing. So not every listing is co-list, but like, for example, I have to start doing it while we're on vacation. So we're starting now for any new business that we're going to get for the co-list opportunity. And then a certain price point too, we do that way as well.
Well, and I would say it's kind of like going into surgery. Do you want just the surgeon in the room? You really don't. You want the surgeon in the room and everybody there that helps hand the pieces and oversee the process so the surgery goes smoothly. And if the surgeon's the only one you've got in the room, the surgery's not going to go nearly as well as it could or should, or at all.
Yeah, I'm good at selling. I'm good at being in front of the buyer or seller. Kind of suck at everything else. So
me too. Yeah.
So, you know, it's actually better for you to have somebody who is really fantastic at the dotting the T, crossing the T, dotting the I, doing your marketing, making sure that on a day-to-day basis that we have access to having somebody be at the showings, all those things that, you know, there's only so much one person can do. So a team effort is really the goal.
Exactly. That's great. So right now, it sounds like you've got a team or you've got agents who are helping, again, service delivery. You've got your husband. Your husband's kind of like, it sounds like the implementer. Like he's the one behind the scenes, making sure things are organized, probably keeping up with the CRM and the database, keeping up with the contracts, keeping up with the listings, putting things in place. And then there's you and the other agents, the 4 other agents on the team, meeting with clients, getting them in houses, and making it happen. On that end.
Yes.
Awesome.
And I actually think we need to hire somebody else at the computer too right now to really just field and be responsive to the leads that we get and whatnot. You know, I don't know if you've ever talked to Lance Loken, but Lance Loken is a genius. He's a realtor as well. He's in Texas. Yeah, and his business model and his systems are amazing. And he provides all his business models just on the internet. So you can just go.
Really? So Lance Loken in Memphis, did you say?
I'm sorry? Texas.
Texas. Okay. Yeah. So Lance Wilkin, you're going to introduce us. We're getting Lance on the show.
Okay.
I love it. You're like, okay, wait a minute.
Well, we're not like super great.
Isaac, edit that out. and guys, if he doesn't edit it out, it's because I told him not to.
You know, I
told him I was just kidding. Anyway.
He doesn't actually. I mean, I think we met once or twice, so he doesn't even remember who I am. But you know, the 2 things that I got from him was the hiring people that are not like you. And he actually doesn't hire anybody who's been in real estate either, because
really,
I think, that's how he initially started. Yeah. So
wow.
Because it gives you a different perspective, and I think that's why my clients like me, is because I have this completely analytical way of looking at real estate that's so different than other agents. And even when I take listing appointments or meet with new buyers, I'm like, you know, I want you to just have a successful transaction.
Yeah.
And whether that's with me or not, you know, you need to find who you're the most comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly. So true. It's going to be better for everybody. Right. So tell us a little bit about what makes you, you're analytical and you look at properties differently. Is there anything like specific you can give us that makes you stand out, or how that works, or what can you tell us about that?
Well, Compass actually honestly has made it easier because their valuation breaks it out in the spreadsheet for me, which is really great. And then it goes by dates. So that has been really fantastic. So, I don't know how it is in Atlanta, but
No,
Chicago,
we're still working on that on the Compass platform in Atlanta, unless I haven't kept up.
well, do you guys do price per square foot in Chicago, in Atlanta?
No, we do and we don't because the square footage is so off because of a lawsuit that's about 15 or 20 years old.
Okay.
But we're working on that.
Yeah, well, Chicago is the only metropolitan city in the world that does not do price per square foot. So
Except Atlanta. No, I'm kidding. Right.
well,
No. Yeah, Atlanta kind of tries. Yeah, but
yeah,
especially on condos, we do more. But go ahead. I want to hear this.
yeah. So especially international clients, this is what they're used to. They're
Yeah.
not buying Chicago. This is not their second home. This is like their 10th home. So they've already owned things in LA, in New York, in London, and everything there is price per square foot.
Yeah.
When they're looking in Chicago, they're so confused. Why is anyone not using price per square foot here? And I had to explain it to them. I actually won
This is very similar to Atlanta. Yeah, this is good stuff. So keep going.
I have to explain it to them that people just don't do it here. So the best we can do is estimate.
That's Atlanta. Yep.
Through these, and the compass valuation is very helpful. I used to have to honestly spend hours on doing a valuation because I would have to download it to Excel spreadsheet, do a price per square foot analysis.
Me too. Yep.
Yeah. And then I have clients who want to look, and even though it doesn't matter, and I tell them it doesn't matter if you look at the last 4 years because everything is changing, and an appraiser's only going to look for the last 3 months. They still want to look at it anyways.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to pull that data now. Before it wasn't. So yeah, doing that. I think it's really important to be knowing the new construction that's happening. I've actually sold a ton of new construction, and the price per square foot for that compared to current existing markets, rate of return. So, for my investment clients, rate of return is really important, and what's happening in that neighborhood. So it's just like a combination of everything.
Depending on you kind of cater your analysis to the client and their needs, which is refreshing for them because it's so important. I think so many of our clients don't feel heard, and they just kind of use agents to get in houses and get it done and whatever and work around us rather than really feel like we're working with them. I would say that is definitely giving you competitive edge. And not that everybody in this business is great, but that's having those tools is huge. Can you give us like a huge challenge because every day we're presented with challenges in this industry. What is a really big special one that you would be willing to share with us and kind of it presented itself as a huge challenge and what you got out of that and where you came out on the other side of it and what you learned?
So when I first started, I thought, I just have to focus on getting clients. I don't need to focus on anything else.
Yeah, that's the paradigm of our business. Yeah.
Yeah. And the market tanked shortly after I started, but I was still in the heat of things in the beginning. And my clients would lose out on properties. And I realized that the reason why was because they didn't know me. So I think it was really important now, and I do this all the time, is getting to know your colleagues in your market because that could be the deciding factor if your client's going to win an offer or not.
Yeah.
Well, and then being nice, you be professional and still look out for your client, but not be a jerk about it.
Well, that's looking out for your client, developing good. There are a lot of agents who get it, but there are a lot of agents who don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then challenge is, again, I think it was the time management and trying to be everybody all the time. And, I think when I had that aha moment of I cannot do everything all the time, that is the biggest thing. And hiring a team member, whether by salary or even just a newer agent that you want to co-list with and they're doing your showings for you, like doing that from the very beginning, I wish I had, because then it wouldn't have been a 7-year struggle. Hopefully it would only been like a 3-year struggle to get where I got to be a top producer in 7 years. So
Wow, that's awesome. So we talked a little bit about this, and I would love. Well, wait, no, I do this, y'all, but I've got one. I'm going to back up. You
okay.
mentioned earlier. I'm going to ask you about how would you do it if you started over. We're going to do that question, but not yet, because I
Okay.
want to know. Earlier, you were talking about our leads, for example, they come really more in the form of phone calls or the occasional email. But in my team, I'm hyper focused on the relationships. So internet leads aren't in my world, or if they are, they don't usually turn out because that's not what I'm good at. Sorry guys, but anyway, we get them in houses and we get them houses sold or not, but we don't develop business that way. But it sounds like you guys have leads coming in online. Is that right? Or I bring this all up to say, where does your business come from? What is your model to generate leads? And you're also very international. You've got 5 languages on you in your team. You guys are speaking 5 languages.
5 other languages.
So give us kind of wrap us around your business. Where does it come from? How do you generate it?
All over the place.
Yeah.
It's kind of there is a method to my madness, I feel. So 30% of our clients come off the internet.
30%. Okay.
Yeah, and so these are fresh, I've never met them before. They've never met me. It wasn't a referral. And so that could be through our website, which is actually up for the best new website or best website through Chicago Agent Magazine.
Really?
I'll find out.
What's the website address?
There's 3. There's and they all lead to the same, so it doesn't matter. But the goal is if you Google my name, Amy Duong Kim, you should be able to find everything about me. I'm like an open book. But
Wow.
DuongKimGlobal.com, DuongKimGroup.com, and AmyDuongKim.com. So we have those 3 websites, and they all lead to the same website.
You got those, Isaac? And Duong is Duong, everybody. That's
Duong.
on their computers, Googling it now.
Yeah.
AmyDuongKim.com or Duong Kim Global.
Yeah, or Duong Kim Global.
So how does this website generate leads?
I think it just really, I actually just did a webinar for Guaranteed Rate, and it was really cool what he had said. He read my bio, and he said that what I got from it was that you have amazing customer service, which was really awesome that he had said that. That was somebody looking from the outside in, and I'm really glad that portrayed. And then he said that my website, the beginning, there's a video, and it talks about me and my family and my work and how I feel about work. And then on the bottom of the page, it goes back to the client, what they're looking for. So I mean, that really wasn't my intent, but that's pretty awesome that someone thought that.
Yeah.
So that's, Zillow reviews. I always think that when I first started, I had no money, and I didn't want to spend any money. So, and actually up until 6 years ago, I really truly didn't spend any money on marketing. So it was all just word of mouth and the internet. So yeah, Zillow, Yelp. I was one of the first realtors on Yelp. I have this article from 10 years ago that Illinois Association of Realtors wrote on me about being a realtor on Yelp.
Oh, cool.
I mean, if you go online, you'll see a ton of other agents that have a lot more reviews. I think what I love is the people that I help from Yelp or Zillow, they're all the same type of client, because they really read the reviews, and then there's always one line that catches them, why they want to work with me. So for example, I had someone call me from New York. They never met me before. They just found me on the internet. And I always ask them, why did you choose calling me? And they said there was something in one of the reviews that said that she's really fantastic and really efficient with out-of-town and out-of-country clients. And that caught her eye.
Interesting.
So I don't personally think it's always 100 reviews. Don't get discouraged as a new agent to not have a ton of reviews. I think it's more to have quality reviews.
Well, no, go ahead. So I learned something. I have to give a shout out to Fabienne Fredrickson a long time ago. She's a business coach. I think she's in France now. I don't know if she's still living there, but she was in Connecticut. I worked with her. But she talks about, and this is a great add-on to what you said about if you're not an experienced agent, or you haven't, not that you're not experienced, but if you haven't been in business for 14 years to get 1 million reviews, that, even a few really good ones, but she gave me a formula to write a good interview. And it started off with the client saying, this is where I was when I met, my agent. This is where I was when I met Amy. I was from another country. I was lost. I didn't know what to do and where to go. And when I met Amy, she listened to me. She heard me. She knew what I needed. She understood what was important to me. She didn't make assumptions. And in the end, I ended up with a property from her. I'm making stuff up, y'all, but this is the way I would write somebody would review you. She had a way of analyzing properties, even in Chicago, a market that doesn't use square footage, to help me understand my rate of return, my investment, and ensure that the investment was the right one for my goals, period. So it's kind of like I was lost and I was found, and here's how my agent found me. So when people read reviews that way, it resonates with them. Like you said, that's something that resonated with me. So just like, whatever we're going to call that, like Jere's 2 cents of the day. But it so resonated. I had to share that. So anyway, going back to, they really pick you they select you from reviews. Even though you say you have a lot of different kinds of clients, you definitely attract kind of the out-of-town client who does really do their research and figure out who's going to be the best agent for them.
Yeah, I would say so. My internet leads are like that.
So 30% of your business comes from internet leads. Where does the rest of it come from?
My sphere of influence. So I had the fortunate relationships with a ton of really fantastic people that I've met throughout the years, starting from college. And it's actually, shouldn't even say it's networking. Networking is not what you need to do anymore. It's relationship building. So
much better word. Networking has kind of even become a word that nobody likes.
Yes. So I really stay in touch. We'll be going to Asia for Christmas. I'll be hanging out with 3 other families. We all went to college together. So, and yeah, all of them actually have been my clients at one point.
So and just go ahead. No, finish what you keep going.
Oh, no, it's okay.
So I've got to, unless you had something to say, another question on that, because we're talking about, you've got a lot of Asian clients. They come from the Philippines. They come from Hong Kong. I think Korea, and you speak the languages of, I'm looking at, I had a list and I've lost it. But anyway, Hong Kong, Korea, Japan, Philippines, and a little bit from mainland China.
Mainland China.
So, but what I thought was interesting, I think it's some interesting insight for anybody listening to this was you have found a lot of people really focused on the Chinese buyer. And what people forget about, and you correct me where I'm wrong, is that the Chinese buyer, it's always changing how they can move their money and how much they can bring here. And it's very limited. Whereas, a buyer from Hong Kong, for example, usually you're going to have buyers there with the high net worth and a lot of money to invest, and it's going to be easier for them to invest with you and in United States. So I think that was kind of an interesting point that you made, kind of like what's underneath the surface of everything and what may be a real powerful tool that you have on your team. Did I say that? Did I miss anything on that?
And also, it's like a path of least resistance, right? If we all try for Chinese buyers, there's only a few that are going to be able to do it, And then, so I think when I started the international side of our business, I think it was 6 years ago, that was not my intent, first of all. It's just all my friends who I went to college with ended up moving to Asia, and then they would introduce me to their friends, and and it kind of just was like this domino effect.
Yeah.
And they all were expats in Hong Kong and in Singapore, and truly, it goes back to that, using your sphere of influence. When we were in Vietnam, I posted that we were in Vietnam, and all of a sudden we were having lunch with somebody I went to college with, that I hadn't seen for 10 years.
Wow.
So. Yeah. I think, again, it's that maintaining relationships, being willing to, I will take any meeting because you never know where it's going to lead. So, and that's kind of how I ended up being at Compass.
Well, me too. And the funny thing about that is, it's like, be careful who you say no to, because I think there are a lot of times where people can be presumptuous or for lack of a better word, pretentious. It's like you don't know until you know, and be open-minded, because there are opportunities I probably have missed on or didn't miss out on and could have missed out on because of that, because of being open-minded. We do have to protect our time, but take a good look at things before you say no to them.
Yeah, and I think that, maybe it sounds glamorous to work the international market.
There's a lot of challenges it presents.
There's so many challenges. There was one point, I actually 2 years ago, I decided, I'm not going to do this. I told my husband, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is killing me.
Yeah.
Because you have to talk to your client to service. For me to service my clients the way I would like to, that means that I would have to talk to them in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like having two jobs, really, servicing my clients here in the U.S. and then servicing my clients in Asia, because it's a 12-hour time difference.
Yeah.
So,
how did you figure that out?
I stopped doing it for a little bit because it was too crazy. I wasn't sleeping.
Title of this podcast, Just Quit. Just quit and it'll work itself out. So what do you do now? Or do you have other people do it? Or, because I know you've got somebody, you've got a few people in the background working now.
Yeah, I have, my Chicago people are great with my day-to-day stuff for our Chicago work.
Yeah.
And, I think it's just really just learning, just like, this job is ever changing, right?
That's the good, and that's the good of it, and the bad of it is you've got to constantly reinvent yourself in this business and in any business, but especially in this one, or you will. I think in any business, it's the businesses that get so big and stop reinventing themselves and keeping up with the times that end up, I don't want to, and I'm not thinking real estate businesses. I'm just thinking businesses in general that I don't even want to name because I don't want anybody to give me a hard time, but. I think it's safe to say IBM had 80% market share, and I'm not sure what it is now.
Well, I just read an amazing article on Sears where that's a super well-known brand, and then they didn't take the catalog to the internet, and that was like the end of the beginning,
or the beginning of the end.
They could have been, amazing, but you're right. You have to continue to, and that's not my words, okay? It's from the article.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're both a little headshot here. Everybody, we mean well. Okay, so if you were starting all over, and whether you had a few $100 or not, that's part of my question that I have written for people. But if you were starting all over, how would you do it? What would you do differently?
So, and I'm going to go off of, moving to the suburbs. I actually hid that idea for a while because I didn't want my Chicago clients to think that I wasn't servicing them. I only moved 17 miles away, so it's not like I moved, out of state, right?
Right.
But, I think that they understand now that we have a good system going. But when I moved to the suburb, I thought, it'll be great. I'll just get business like that. I'm a top producer in Chicago. It can't be that hard. I already put the hours in. But it truly was starting from scratch again. Nobody knew who I was. And so, it's really growing roots in that community. We do print there now. And we do social media advertising focused on those areas now. But when we first moved there, I'm like, I don't want to just inundate people with all this marketing when they don't even know me. Yeah. So, being involved in our children's schools, being involved, I'm in a women's club there. So being involved in that, just meeting people and, getting to know the community and being out there, I think was the best thing that we could do, because then now they can correlate. Now we do marketing, and we just started that. So now they can correlate, and I get texts and emails all the time. Oh, I saw you in the Hinsdale magazine. Oh, I saw you in Hinsdale Living. When they wouldn't have done that before because who is this woman? Like, they didn't have known me before. Yeah. So I think people, new agents especially, I'm all about growing business organically. So maybe my way is not the super fast way, but this is the way that I know is that you have to make those relationships first.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot to be said for that, because you say that, but I've always found sometimes when you do things a little organically and authentically, it ends up being fast because it's real and it's substantial and you can deliver off of that. So I think to sum it up, if you were starting all over, your advice is to embed yourself in the community first, get to know people, develop relationships, use that time to develop a marketing program. So as you get to understand the consumer and the market, you understand what to market to that community and what's important and how to position it. So at the end of it all comes together so that you you kind of get there faster by making fewer mistakes and being more established in the brand and as an agent. Because as an agent, I think a lot of people come in and they think they have to sell every house because we forget how many houses are out there. There's not, I always tell the story, but we get all the telemarketers, and this guy called me one day and he's like, what if when people Googled Atlanta Realtor or Atlanta Homes for Sale, your name came up to the top of the search and you could get all of those phone calls? I was like, that would be really scary. I would need to be Compass or a brokerage, because as an agent, that would be a disservice to my client, because people hear that not understanding what that really means, because we all so often are coming from a place of scarcity rather than the place of abundance that we really live in and should be in. Learn from reality. I think that's like a Compass thing, and that's a positive, true reality. So what have you found? I know you mentioned earlier you sometimes are communicating. I don't know if it was before or during the interview, but you do have a lot of clients that aren't, they're from international. So, you mentioned like using 20 apps to communicate. So all of that said, what is your most powerful tool so far in being an agent that you find? And I think I already know what the answer is, but I'm going to see if I'm right in being an agent. What's that?
Yeah. Just picking up the phone and actually.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You can't use that one because that's part of my question. Other than the phone, because you're right. That's it. So other than the phone.
Yeah, every Compass tool is amazing, and unless you're a Compass agent, you wouldn't know what that means. But it's the valuation. Our marketing tools are amazing.
Yeah. I was going to say the valuation tool. And it doesn't, this question isn't for Compass, by the way. This is like in general, but I was going to say it's the Compass valuation tool. I bet is yours.
Well, actually, I love talking to my clients through the Compass app, because then we can have this text through each property, which is really.
I do love that too.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have to name it. You don't have to have funny nicknames for the houses anymore. You can actually just talk about it and communicate.
Yeah. So that's really fantastic. The Markets app is really amazing, where it kind of breaks down, I'm looking at it right now, but breaks down, I don't think you could probably see it from here, but breaks down by neighborhood of what's sold, what's under contract, things like that. So that's a really good conversation piece when I even just meet somebody. It's really fantastic that I have this on my fingertips. Excel. I love Excel. I'm a nerd.
I said so. One. But this is good stuff because you're teaching me more about the Compass apps because I haven't taken the classes yet.
Yeah, I think I use everything equally.
Yeah.
I don't live without any of them.
All right, well, pick a favorite. I'm going to pick a favorite. It's the valuation tool. Or you tell me, what is it? Yeah. But you can't, you need them all, right? You need them all. So, let's see, I'm going to ask you 2 more questions, I think. Y'all, we'll just have to see. Yeah, I've got 2 more. Okay. The next one is there a book, an author that you most highly recommend that we listen to improve if it's work-life balance or career or a little bit of both?
Well, it's not going to be something that you haven't heard already because I heard it from you. So it was Make Your Bed. It's short and sweet. And it's a really fantastic book that just like good principles and life to follow,
Yeah, it's how you start your day.
Yeah, exactly. Non-real estate is honestly, I think it's just a fun book, and I have clients that are relatable. I won't say any of the characters' names, but relatable to some of the characters in this book is Crazy Rich Asians. I think.
I've heard that book is awesome. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So
I've got to read that. I've heard that is incredible.
What clients I have, they're very similar to some of those clients.
I hear that. Yes. I can't wait to read. So Crazy Rich Asians and Make Your Bed. Yeah. And the last question to bring this all together. If there's one thing that you would hope we all get from this conversation, what would that be?
To continue to try all outlets. And, again, I'm all over the place, I feel sometimes, but it was because in the very beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. So I just tried, and it continued. Some things worked, some things didn't, some things continue to work. So it's just really, don't be afraid and really get yourself out there. I would not have ever thought I could do any percentage of international clients without the fact that just like, you know what, I'm going to give it a try.
Yeah.
And, hopefully and I actually told one of my very first clients, I've never done this before, so I'm going to do the best I can, but just know that this is very new to me. And I just wanted to make it very clear to him.
I love that authenticity too, by the way. I mean, that's actually the sign of a really good agent.
He appreciated it. He said, I know you're going to do a good job for me, so it'll be fine. And it was. So,
don't be afraid and just put yourself out there. I mean, that sums it up right there.